I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Winchester Planning Board for Tuesday, July 8th. Start with a roll call vote to open the meeting, then I'll go through the agenda, and then we'll open the public hearing. So start with you, Carrie.
Carrie Layton, present.
Jack.
Jack Lemonage, present.
Nick.
Nick Rosetto's present.
John.
John Cortez present.
Brian Vernalia, as chair, I'm present. So tonight's meeting, we will be, the first order of business will be a public hearing on 972 Main Street. I expect that to be short and that we will be continuing it to the following meeting. From there, we have an hour gap before we have an 8 o'clock public hearing on 0 Ardley Road, which will be a joint public hearing with the Conservation Commission. So what we'll do is after we finish at 7 o'clock, we'll go through the business agenda, and then we'll return at 8 o'clock or as close thereafter to do that. In the business agenda, we have a ZBA application for a special permit for 56 Thornbury Road. We have an introduction to the process for the town planner performance review. We'll go over some of that. Planning board member Carrie Layton is going to be providing us with some update on the state of the town, however much is needed. We can have a discussion on that. We have minutes to approve. And then our next meeting will be on July 29th. We should discuss when we get to there whether that meeting should be in person or remote. Right now it's scheduled for remote, but there was some reasons why we might want it in person, so we can discuss that later. So with that, I'd like to open the public hearing for 972 Main Street, PB 25-4. I guess we need a motion and a second to open, or do we just need a roll call? I always get confused.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Carrie.
Aye.
Jack.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
John. Chair votes aye as well. It's my understanding that there is no new information tonight on this public hearing, on the application, and as such, the town planner has suggested motion language to continue this application to January 29th at 7:30 p.m. July 29th, thank you. It's hot.
Go to January.
It's hot. Yeah, I thought it would be cooler up here, actually.
They need a lot of time.
Yeah, I brought a jacket just in case, but I shouldn't have worried. I needn't have worried.
So I would welcome a motion to do that. I know that earlier we got an email from Taylor with suggested language, which I could read, and then someone could make that motion if they wanted, or someone could just make the motion.
I move to continue the public hearing for the special permit PB 25-4 972 Main Street at the request of the applicant to Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 at 7:30.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Roll call vote. I'm just going to keep on going that way. Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And with that, that is continued, and we're going to move into the business portion of the agenda. And so with that, we don't really have listed in our agenda updates from the chair or updates from the town planner or updates from the board. So I'll even though it's not specifically listed, I just want to make sure if there's anything that anybody wants to update us on. I have nothing. It's summertime. Taylor, do you have anything you want to update us on? No. Okay, just wanted to give that opportunity. So with that, we'll move into ZBA application Z25-14 for 56 Thornbury Road. This is for a special permit. Specifically, they want to add a garage. We have a memo from Assistant Town Planner on this. We don't have anybody here to present this tonight. Ian, if you'd be willing to just go over what's being requested here, and then we can discuss it as a board ourselves in the absence of the petitioners here for themselves. If you're so inclined, I realize I just put you on the spot. I expected,
That's okay.
I hoped someone would be here.
Just trying to pull it up.
What page? It's 157.
Difficult.
So the petitioners at 56 Thornbury Road are seeking a special permit under Section 9.3 Zoning Board of Appeals, Sections 9.4 Special Permit, Section 4.0 Dimensional Requirements, and Section 3.5.5 Non-Conforming Single and Duplex Structures to construct an attached garage that does not meet the 120-foot dimensional requirement for lot width. Property is in the RDA residential zoning district and contains 22,677 square feet. Proposed addition remains consistent with the neighborhood. Thornbury is not a historically significant structure. Actually, the historical commission convened last night and they found it was not historically significant structure, or it did not affect the historic inventory of the town. And the engineering departments have not finalized their comments yet. So.
Okay. Thank you. Again, in the absence of the petitioners here, it might be helpful to go to one of the floor plans that shows what's being proposed, or one of the, I'm not sure which one would be best. Maybe page
Probably 159.
159. My page numbering is very different from that. So that one will do, though. That one's perfect. So they have a single-family dwelling, and they're proposing to extend the driveway from where it currently is around to the back of the house and add a 3-bay garage that you can see on the plans back there. Note, just an observation, it's a large garage.
3-car garage.
3-bay garage.
Sorry.
Well,
You might want to put your horse in there.
It would be room for the horse and the 3 cars.
But I found it odd that it's a flat roof, literally flat. Not that that matters to our charge, but it just seemed an odd construction. Leave that one to design review committee.
I'm sure, and there's obviously added a lot of impervious, so engineering will be important that is dealt with correctly.
and we don't have any of that information yet, because so, I mean,
Well,
They provided, I didn't
not something useful to us.
evaluate the,
well, it only increases the hardscape by 7%. It leaves plenty of room to spare in that regard, according to the report they submit.
the hardscape, but the impervious, the building.
Yeah, they don't include the
Yeah,
impervious part here.
I mean, it kind of doesn't, it all, when it comes to stormwater, it all kind of comes to the same.
I drove by there today, and that the rear, the lots, because the road is curved, the lots are all oddly shaped, and so the back of the lot is a triangle, and that's all wooded, heavily wooded,
Yeah.
and it seems to go up a bit. It seems to rise, so the water wouldn't be going into those woods. To your point.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that the impervious area is only being increased by 7% when the footprint of the addition is larger than the footprint of the dwelling, and the footprint of the new driveway is bigger than the footprint of the existing driveway.
I mean, the only thing they got going is, you know what, they're just talking about the paved area, and maybe they're going to eliminate part of the existing, but it doesn't, that's not really our part here. The engineering.
Right.
We'll look at that. There's obviously a lot more impervious.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was double. If you just look at the black outline of
Easily.
the something like that, double. You know?
On page 161, I wonder if John can help explain what that picture is, or anyone. It shows two what look like tunnels. Are those tunnels?
Those are infiltrators.
And are those the length of the driveway, or what is that?
No, they're usually about 8 or 10 feet in length, and you attach them together and can make something very long. They will snap together like,
What's their purpose?
So how long did they go? I mean,
they can go as long
like
as,
where are they under?
oh, they're, well, they're kind of indicated there. You dig a hole according to the specifications of the engineer, and based on the soil, you may have to really over dig because you want to provide nice material for the water to infiltrate into.
I see.
And those infiltrators will fill with the water quickly from, the driveway or the roof. And the idea is that if you have a good understanding of the surrounding material, you can make a very good prediction of how long it will take to be absorbed.
So is that like they put like on the side of the asphalt, like along?
You can put it, frequently you put them under driveways.
Oh, under the asphalt, and it basically absorbs whatever's coming
They
in.
are, I can't read what they are, but they are, most of them are called H-rated, so you can put them in commercial parking lots.
Okay.
They're very much strong enough for a
Right.
residential driveway.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, it seems like it's a well thought scheme.
Yeah, no, they're just showing you the cross-section. The actual infiltrator, I mean, you could pick one up
Oh, I see.
easily.
Right.
Those are the yellow things that you see in
Yes.
the yards, yeah.
Yes, those kind of orangey yellow.
At construction sites, yeah.
Right, that, I forget, that's a particular brand, very
Caltech, is that it?
Yes, those are the
Caltech
Caltex.
Recharger, 36 HD, heavy duty.
Oh, okay.
Yep. They come in, different capacities and dimensions, but it's kind of the same principle.
Yeah.
But the engineer, you have to do some soil sampling and figure out what kind of material you have on the site. And if you have a lot of clay, well, you're going to be removing a lot of clay and then installing a lot of sand, something that will
Right.
give you the kind of absorption performance you're looking for. And this, certainly the engineering will, they will look at this.
Interesting.
So the reason this is before us, am I correct? The only reason this is before us is because of the pre-existing non-conforming lot width of this property. Were it not for that, this would be a by right project. I realize that's, if it had wheels, you'd be in a car, but
It meets all the setbacks of the non-conforming lot, but it's the 120-foot dimensional requirement for lot width for that zoning that it doesn't.
So what would make this conforming, and how much less is it? And is that significant? I mean,
It's a couple feet.
it's 120 feet, I believe.
Is required.
Is required,
Right.
and
And this is like,
I think they'd have to buy a neighbor's lot and
Yes.
change the property. I don't think they.
I don't think they could do it. I don't think,
it's not really that
Whatever they
much.
do, if they,
It's a modern build.
Yeah.
It was kind of built when they were looking, for 20,000 square feet of lots up there.
Right.
I think, they kind of worked to around 120 feet, but some are a little more, a little less. And,
Yeah.
113 it looks like in,
They're all done in the 60s, is that
Yeah,
right?
early 60s, Jenkins did that one, all that Thornbury.
Yeah.
And he stopped a couple houses past it was the last one. You increase street numbers.
Yeah.
You can see when you drive down, it's,
As you go down that hill, the houses
this is
get
just
newer.
before the hill, this is.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
and if the lot were conforming, it would be by right and it would not even require a site plan review. It does not seem.
It would still, the engineering would.
Engineering would still need to
be
happen.
weighing in as they are
Yes.
now.
But
But
it
we're
wouldn't
just-
be coming before us or the ZBA necessarily.
No.
Yeah.
No, because otherwise they're, haven't done it. They're fine.
So sort of the question before us is the non-conforming lot width something that we think impacts whether this should be approved or not?
I think so. I think it's,
That's the question, okay.
I mean,
Yeah. I'm just trying to sort of
Yeah,
distill
no.
it down to why we're looking at a project.
I
And
would move that we recommend favorable action.
I think there is I think because I totally agree this should be kind of a no-brainer. They got a non-conforming lot and anything they do, we're going to see. But I think there's some merit to commenting on the flat roof because we are commenting on the, context of the neighborhood. And it's kind of like a jarring design to have So I think some comment that any change to the roof design that would bring it architecturally into a more harmonious,
It is.
whatever.
I take your point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But curiously, in this case, I'm not sure anyone can see it.
And no one will see
it
it, but
almost feels
still
like it
you
needs
think
to be a
like,
story.
will it make it, will some, like, will, I don't know. Is there,
I don't understand why they're making
Yeah.
that choice, because it's more.
It'll leak.
it's more expensive to do a flat roof?
Well, because you don't have, this is easier to support the load than this.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And with the water, I mean, with all
And
the
you have to
impervious,
manage
you'd
the
want
water.
the,
Like a major
Maybe they want to do
blizzard.
a second story. So
My dad's flat roof leaks
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. I mean,
they'd have to come back for a second story. No matter what they do, they're going to have to come
Right.
back.
right.
I'd rather build a gable roof and rip it off and then put the second story on than build this thing. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
when there's too much snow on the roof, and
Mm-hmm.
you're worried about leaks, and you're worried about, when you go up and clear it, the risk of damaging the roof as you're walking with your shovel is just.
Exactly.
It's hard, it's.
Yeah.
It's trickier, it's no question.
I assume it's going to be one big open garage space too, not with necessarily supports in it. It might have in the middle.
Right.
Not,
Well,
not that that's our problem. That's an engineer's problem. But
Right, but it's just, I think of it and I think about, well, they're gonna use steel, how are they gonna, I'm sure they got it worked out. I've used steel, it's not a big deal.
Maybe it's going to be like a
It's huge.
party
it's
space.
like,
Put a DJ out there. Host the kids.
It's going to be a sport court.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
don't go there.
It's going to be a pickleball court.
It's the
roof
width of
could
the
be a
house
sports
again.
Right, it's disguising a sport court, yeah.
I believe that Mr. Cortez has made the motion. I will second it.
Can you clarify your motion? Did you have a rationale behind it in the motion, or did you just say you recommended
I
favorable?
recommended favorable action. I don't think it is,
Doesn't create any adverse impacts on the neighborhood. Maybe?
exactly, does not.
Would that be a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Would you
Your
friendly
second stands.
friendly second that?
I will second that.
Any additional discussion? No. Move to a vote. Carrie,
Hi.
Jack,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. So, Jack, you will write that up.
As you speak.
If possible, can you note that we just observe that we did not did not have the final engineering review, so that they don't think that we reviewed it and said it was all great. Not that they would do that, but
Yeah.
Yep.
thank you very much. With that, we'll go on to the, okay, I'm on the last page of the document. If you could go, can anybody tell us what the next agenda item is? Because I've got two things open. I believe it's going to be the town planner performance. Okay. So on the very last page of the packet is a memo from me to the board with a proposed way to go about the town planner performance review for the for this past year, and then do goal setting for the following year. I'm going to walk through this. This is open for discussion. I'm not trying to dictate this. It just we needed to have someone sort of lead the process. So tonight being July 8th, I've shared with you in the packet the performance review document, and I've pre-filled in the goals that were determined by this board for town planner last year in April. Taylor will be providing us with a self-assessment regarding these goals at some point, so that we can have, and a self-assessment in general, so we'll have that to help us review. Then between today and July 22nd, that gives me a week at the end, I would welcome members of the board to meet with Taylor, talk about his performance for the past year and a little bit, talk about anything you want, nothing, ask for any additional materials you may need. Nothing should be a surprise. When he finally gets his performance review from us, he shouldn't say, I had no idea there were these questions or concerns from the board, or no idea that you loved me so much. I mean, I think it should be pretty clear.
Although Taylor spending 5 hours with the board hearing how much we love him may not be the best use of Taylor's time.
May not be the best use of his time, although it might be the best 5 hours of his.
Yeah, maybe he needs the pep talk, newborns are rough, but still.
It's up to you, though.
be
I'm not,
information
can't require anybody to do that. And then by July 22nd, I'm going to ask each of you to fill out the performance review form that we have. It's in the packet. I will send out it's in a Word document, so you can type it in and not have to try to use it. Converted it from PDF to a Word. The PDF was unwieldy, so you can just use free text in there. I will take the various versions that everybody has, average the scores, consolidate the comments as best I can, so that we have one document, because the performance review for Taylor is not any one of us individually, but it's the 5 of us collectively. And then on the 29th, I will present that consolidated review in open session. At the same time, Taylor will bring to that meeting his recommendations for his goals for 25-26 year. I guess that's FY26, but we're sort of a little off cycle. We'll discuss and vote the evaluation and next year's goals. Slightly different than this says in the memo, we will probably open that meeting with an executive session, and in that executive session, we will be talking about salary recommendations. We will have advantage of having the consolidated review. It's a matter of trying to not do an executive session in the middle of the meeting. We'll come out of executive session, and when we vote the review and the goals, we'll also vote recommended salary recommendations. So that's sort of the outline that I'm proposing. I would welcome feedback from all of you of things that you'd like to see differently, things that you like added, and we can go from there as far as how this runs. So I welcome.
Just a quick question. On this evaluation form, I see no place for us as individuals to indicate that we are doing the rating. Is this supposed to be anonymous?
So ultimately, Taylor will get one evaluation.
I understand that, but when we give it to you.
You give it to, I should probably know who it is, so I can follow up and make sure you actually sent it to me, and that,
Okay.
so, I mean, there's no
The
requirement.
purpose of this form is just for your eyes.
Yes, for my eyes, to fill into one
Got it.
document.
So where are we supposed to be looking? I mean,
It's right above, I'm going to send out the Word version.
236.
Page 236.
6 is where it starts.
Oh, no, but the new version, I think it starts on 236. I need my reading glasses. So I've pre-filled in some of the details. I mean, there's not a lot. And then there's, you go to page 236. So there are the goals from last year on page 236 is the rating scales for everything and everything about what we're doing. 237 is the goals from last year. Again, Taylor's going to have something prepared for us at a later date on his opinion of how he's reached those goals. And then we can also talk about that when we have our final performance review. And then there are a bunch of performance standards. And this is where there's an opportunity to ask for supporting examples if you want something from Taylor, if you have your own examples here. Again, I'm going to try to consolidate this into one thing so that if all 5 of you say the same thing, it's only going to be listed here once, but if all 5 of you say different examples, then I'm going to try to pick and choose the ones that capture the whole. And of course, when we go to vote the eventual performance review, if someone says, hey, I really want to add whatever, we'll do that. It's the performance review of all 5 of us, not any one of us.
Freshman question here. On the first goal, document the limits of your work capacity and contributions of Griffin. Is Griffin the...
Oh, Griffin.
Who's Griffin?
He was the intern from
Oh, the
Northeastern.
intern, right. Okay, sorry. Yes, I remember.
So that's why we're going to need feedback from him, because some of these goals are either completed or not undertaken, depending on, I mean, these were the goals set in April.
Yeah, so it might be helpful to have context on last year's process, if we can call it that, as a reminder to everyone and as a freshman orientation. So Taylor started in August of 23. We had been town plannerless for a bit, and then we kind of hired him at a lower salary tier than was potentially appropriate lots of like hard to explain reasons. And so we had sort of like set the salary structure up as like, we will review you as soon as possible and set you up for a 2-step increase and all these things and try to accelerate you in the pay scale as quickly as possible, commensurate with your performance, blah, blah, blah. And then he stepped into sort of like, drinking from a fire hose. We were getting 3A pulled together. Diab was just doing all of the things. And so we set up the review in April to make sure that we could capture feedback from Eaching, Scott, and Sally Dale before they came off the board. And so we set the goals kind of midstream as we wound up to spring town meeting and transition chairs. And so the goals are as much like what we were trying to get done by the end of the week as they were sort of a thoughtful plot of what should happen.
Snapshot.
And we thought we would revisit them, at the year mark. And at the year mark, we had, 2 new board members, and, the chair had transitioned, and kind of no one wanted to go back to it because the goals seemed sort of fine. And so the first year was sort of a haphazard process. So I think we have 2 difficult tasks ahead of us this year. One is going to be Taylor addressing this really messy set of goals that we set last year. I think we have an excellent opportunity, and we're very competent hands with our current chair to set up really nice goals for next year. But in that salary discussion, we're going to have to be very thoughtful about what the criteria are for step increases, because he had sort of this messy start and he was hired at this sort of odd salary point, and like we have to figure out how to sort of pace all of that, and how he can take this set of goals that were set at a weird level and sort of defend sort of like, yes, I should be accelerating at this pace. So this will be a much more thoughtful and structured process, but we have to give ourselves a little grace that this is also like our foundational step forward. So that might be helpful context
That is very
going into
helpful.
this.
It is
Okay.
helpful, thank you.
Because when we did the performance review last year, I'd been on the board for a week.
20 minutes.
Yeah. 20 minutes actually, more likely.
Right.
So I'm trying, largely what I'm trying to do is trying to make it, for me, more organized, which may be less organized for others, but how I think about how I would do this, how I've done similar things in the past on different boards, which is why I open it up to all of you. If like there's things you want to see added, or if you say, hey, I'd rather not see it done this way, it's our review, performance evaluation, not mine. So that's...
Right. Right.
So I expect that some of these goals from last year, we will find don't make sense, or were just completed. Like they were completed a week after we set that goal. And some of them might have no longer be a priority. 6 weeks later, it might have ceased being a priority. But that doesn't, if it's no longer a priority of the board and we dropped it off, that's not a hit against Taylor for that. That's that we shifted direction. So,
Right.
So there's also a place for free response in here. At the end, there's a overall performance on page 243, and this is where I'll also try to, again, depending on what everybody writes, I'll try to draft something that either takes quotes from all of us or is cut and paste from various places. And
Good.
that's what I'm proposing. Anything that somebody would like to add? Taylor, do you have anything you would like to add to this process that you think would be helpful for you?
You have any questions for me? I mean, because I want to come to you with goals that, not just for me, but goals that also are for the planning board too. So if any board member has individual goals that they want to see be a part of my next year, I'm open ears and happy to hear them. I've also already written my self-assessment, so you should get that tomorrow.
Good.
This may already be part of your self-assessment, but if it's not, I hate to give you overnight homework, but if it's not already in there, like we see what we see and we sort of know how you interact with the board, and that I know is a significant part of your joy at work, but we don't know what we don't know. And so if you have not captured, these are tasks that I handle completely independent of you, like fluff that section up, because we don't know what consumes you.
Understood.
That's outside of here.
Yep.
And it might be helpful in terms of goal setting for us to have some understanding of how that gets divided between you and Ian. So that if we set a goal, we know if we're just setting goals for Ian and we don't realize how the tasks are distributed, or if that's, do you know what I mean? Yeah. That would be helpful to me.
Yep, good point. I agree.
I don't want to set goals that aren't appropriate for you. Sorry, Ian.
Good point.
Yeah, he's here how many hours a day, and he's not with us. We have no idea what he's doing.
Well, he spends a not
A fair number of hours,
insignificant amount of
but
time with us.
thankfully not as many as you might otherwise.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions after this for me about the process, let me know. I will send out to you tonight or tomorrow that performance evaluation tool in a Word document so you can have that and not have to use this PDF that's in here. And then the goal would be his hire date was either August 13th or August 14th. August 14th is the date that we had to get it done by, I believe. But I think they were asking for 2 weeks in advance, so that's where we get to July 29th. No, that's why. That's how I'm working backwards to the dates. That's how we got.
Timeline was weird because it was like we hired him, but then like select board had to sign off on it, and then HR had to do it was like a month long.
That's why I'm working backwards. That's why I have the 29th, because it gives us 2 weeks. And if something on the 29th we have something we want to fiddle with, we could have his performance review completed, but still have some goals that we want to shape for our following meeting. I think we have time, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's all there is on that. So please do get on to looking into that and do meet with Taylor, ask questions, ask for anything from him. No more questions. We'll go on to the next agenda item, which I believe, Carrie, is you.
Okay.
So that was when we have, as written in here, sort of an update from the state of the town, which you've been working incredibly hard on. I know because I've seen some of the emails and you've been sharing some stuff with me, and it's a lot of work.
Yes, it seemed I wasn't going to make it into. I mean, unless like it had just been added to the packet, I was not going to make it in time. So let's count me mentioning these as entering them, and then we can maybe put them in the public record, or I don't know if that's appropriate, or circulate it to the board. So there are so essentially what I'd like to do is make sure that you know what I'm telling the state of the town, so that I'm representing the board and not like my own. I mean, I've met with Taylor, I've met with Brian, but I want to give you a sense of how the process is going and what we're saying and what we're asking for. This is the review of the fiscal health of the town and what would be necessary from an override. And I want to sort of position the planning board as early in the process as we can, because we are getting questions right off the bat, what's possible for growth for the town. And I want us to be able to answer as a board not only what we have built in terms of capacity for increasing economic potential in the town, but also what our limits are and what support we would need to make that process easier for folks who are looking to improve, whether it's their own properties or whether it's commercial development. And so I'm trying to take as holistic a view as I can of sort of the planning board sits here in this. For fees, I kind of open with we're like a rounding error. Like our subdivision fees are a tiny part of the budget, but we are kind of the mechanism through which growth happens in town. So with the help of Taylor and Ian, we have created, based on the rezoning of North Main, which is the area everyone's expecting to transform overnight and unlock the massive economic opportunities that lie ahead. We created a table of properties that either have applications in front of us or have kind of imminent potential for redevelopment. And then, we kind of did like a green, yellow, red chart. Red being one property, the Fit Life no, it's not Fit Life. What was the fitness center called?
That's what it's called.
Okay, so the Fit Life, which has been purchased and will be redeveloped as is, so that will not sort of change from a tax perspective. This is all from sort of a tax perspective. So we have green properties where there's either an application in front of us or a plan that's been approved or kind of imminent change coming to a property. There are yellow ones, which I think are interesting for us to again stay ahead of the state of the town process, because we want to have some idea of what would be successful coming through the planning board and what would be successful for the town from our perspective. And those are properties that have that have good potential to be redeveloped, but we don't know that there's motivation on the owner's part right now. And those are properties that we could think of what would be an incentive that the town could offer, what would be an approach that the town could make to sort of like nudge those to be redeveloped. So there's a table that will circulate in the materials of the green, the yellow, and the one red property. And so that will give them something to put into their model. What's the possible growth that could be coming for that area? Assuming light industrial stays light industrial and does not become housing, which I can't see us moving forward with. The tax revenue from that area probably won't change significantly, but I did mention that there's a little work to do that we should spend more time thinking about that as a board than the state of the town should think of from a fiscal perspective, and that's just that we should update some use tables. We should make sure that we're protected so that if, certain areas, whether it's North Cambridge Street or light industrial, if they change hands or if there are opportunities that come up, that property owners have the capacity to make the changes to respond to economic opportunities for those areas and to keep sort of business owner neighbor relations good and to be proactive about public realm improvements that could help that area. In sort of addressing all of that, I made sure that I positioned us to name some of the challenges that we face as a department, which include a need to increase our GIS capacity. So GIS is the software that creates the maps, and so I'm reiterating things Taylor has told me, so let's not pretend I'm a GIS expert over here. But in terms of sort of, running, everyone's sort of saying, like, if the state gets rid of single-family zoning, like out of our hands, this is an ADU situation, how do we model what could possibly happen with that? Or if we decide as a town our housing crunch has become too great, we should start looking at neighborhoods that would be good candidate neighborhoods for changing minimum lot area or turning into a multifamily zone. Having a better GIS capacity would help us say, okay, let's look at this area and see what that would look like, what challenges would we come up with. If Thornberry comes in, we're sending Jack out to drive over and look at it. If we had better GIS capacity, we would have an easier time saying the challenges you might expect are XYZ, will have higher quality images. So I made a pitch that funding for that, and Brian wrote these up in a memo about expenditures that will come up. So this is sort of summarized in the memo, and it links to documents including an overview of the funding that would be needed to kind of move the planning board forward. So GIS is one of them. The later it gets, the more important these glasses get. And then we also talked about how the departments could be restructured. And there are some small things that we suggested that could be done kind of right away, redistributing the clerks so that, for example, Carla, who does such a beautiful job getting applications through the buildings department, if she was also supporting planning, we could have more coordinated applications. And then a different expense that would go with that would be another license for OpenGov, which would be software that would let people apply to the planning board and the building department simultaneously, and it would move our fees collection online, which would be help folks right now. We're relying on, I think people come in with checks, like it's 2025, but and that's been a topic of discussion that like your water bill is finally online. So that's something that's pretty timely, and I think they'll hopefully be sensitive to. So that would help our site plan review process. That would help our sort of mechanism. And it's expensive, so we put it on the list. What else was on there? GIS, the
zoning bylaw review.
Zoning bylaw review. So one of the things that would make us more nimble, both in terms of sort of adapting when bylaws have to be changed. I'm sure we all clearly remember all of the challenges with either writing North Main or whenever we're reviewing anything that comes up in the CBD. Part of it is just sort of like, this definition doesn't make sense. This definition is this over here and it's this over here. We don't have a definition for certain things. It's a constant source of irritation for the building department. We don't define a basement correctly. Our grade change is weird. So if we were able to get an audit done of our bylaw. So we sort of think about what changes should we make and what changes should we put through town meeting to get approved. But if we could get a third party a consultant to just review our bylaws and suggest a package of changes, it could be a more comprehensive review, a more thorough review, and we could just modernize the bylaw so that as adjustments need to be made, it's just a smoother process. And we suggested that that would be an expenditure we would want to make in time for the next master plan process. So we're currently working our way through the master plan for 2030. So in 2030, we're supposed to be writing master plan 2040. And if we're doing it on our current bylaws, it's just more burdensome to make changes based on what comes up. So we also put the master plan in our budget because we're trying to look at the override from a multi-year perspective. And so that will be coming up in 5 years, or should be wrapping up maybe in 5 years. So that's on there. And then a couple of positions in terms of reorganizing the department. There were suggestions that came from Taylor. We every town sort of handles it differently. It's the blessing and the curse of Massachusetts that we all live like we're in little boxes, and it's not necessarily the best to have us all siloed. We have a one-person sustainability department. We have sort of a one-staff conservation department. We have a 2-staff planning department down the hall from. And so if we had a director of community development kind of overseeing everything and helping with it, so that would be like a 10-year goal. But smaller positions under that, what are we doing to foster economic development in town? And the GIS person, which could probably be a part-time consultant. So the economic development position, which I think during the override process, the odds of us getting, an FTE or 2 added when everyone is very stressed about healthcare expenses and pension expenses and all the things is pretty slim. But the point that was made by Taylor over the course of these discussions is that we don't have consistent hands on an economic development plan or even a community development plan in place. And so, the Cultural Council is an excellent example that he uses where, we have Hilda, if her interests change or she gets, a hankering to live in Montana, then our Cultural Council will take a huge step back. So we don't have someone who's fostering community events. We don't have someone who's getting to know the needs of, those yellow properties where they're not engaged. Those aren't owners that are sort of thinking about it. Do they know about the bylaw? Have we built those relationships? Are we helping the properties that are imminently turning over understand, what's changed in the zoning, all of those things. So that consistent presence would be great if we had a hired position to foster economic development. But is there anything that we can do? Again, I think we should be thinking about this proactively. Is there anything that we can do more actively, probably in conjunction with the select board, to be more proactive about economic development in town? So those are things I think we should be thinking about. Those are things that I'm saying to the state of the town, and you're totally welcome to tear it all apart and we can start over. Or give me a couple thumbs ups.
Super helpful and super complete. I will note that if you don't ask for stuff 5 years before you want it,
that's
then
what I'm
5
thinking.
years from now they say you haven't been asking for it for 5 years.
Yeah. So this is like the I think I've been good Christmas list. This is here's my 16-page. If we manifest all of this tomorrow, we would be, probably aggrandizing ourselves a little bit. But
The only other thing I'd add, is that those were sort of the list of things beyond our sort of typical annual budget. Because we get a lot of things done in our typical annual budget beyond just 2 FTEs. We also have enough money for some projects, and so I just want to point out that those are just sort of the things that would be beyond what we could normally fund in our budget. So just want to point that out.
Yes. Yeah.
There has been, I've heard in the wind, some discussion about possibly having our own lawyer. Did that come up at all?
Yeah, I mean, not so. I think that's a tricky ask.
Yes,
I
I understand.
think our first step would be asking. I think people would have an easier time digesting an audit of our bylaw, which would be really helpful in terms of working with town council of any variety. I think asking for a position that feels litigious without a proactive angle
I understand.
would be trickier. And I think we would wait for a project and ask for that funding.
Right. Theoretically, though, if we were to have our own council, we would require less time of the town council. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a neutral transaction, but it would be not an additional.
I'm sure
entirely
Jay would be happy to tell us how many hours he has spent with us over the last year and how many he would have liked to have spent with us.
The town council, what is that agreement look like?
It's an annual contract and it was just re-signed.
And so how is he compensated? Is the annual contract just have a negotiated rate, and every time someone talks to him,
That is the select
my
board,
impression,
which
yeah.
is,
turns the clock out? I don't know.
Because when I was when I was chair of the historical commission, anytime I needed his counsel, I needed to go through Beth, because she sort of controls that budget. Understandably, because we don't want every chair, commission and board chair to be calling Jay Tellerman at the drop
The
of a
members
hat
could call too, you know.
on some mundane matter. Yeah, true. But to the point of audit of the bylaws, I assume there are consultants out there who would do that, or
yeah, I think it would be less a legal issue and more.
less of a lawyer?
Well, I think not, I don't know, what do you think? It would be like sort of a combination, like a consultant, Jennifer Goulson, right? She came in as a consultant and had her subcontractors when we did the master plan. I think it would be something like a consultant who's an expert in
or
planning.
Dennis Carlone type, or is that the right? Did you know Dennis Carlone?
Yeah, no, I know who he is.
Would he be the right type? I'm just guessing.
I don't know that he's wrong
Yeah.
about that. I don't know the full, I just remember her from the master plan and she had all these subcontractors and the legal seemed.
But it just seems like it would be a legal challenge to go through that. I know that kind of stuff gives me a headache, and that's why I'm not a lawyer.
No, there would have to be, I agree with you, there would have to be. So that could be our way to sort of develop a relationship with a
Yeah.
planning-focused council.
Okay.
Is this also the context that we might hire a design consultant as well, for instance, Dennis Carlone, or would that always be under a 53G?
So I feel very sensitive to the fact that the state of the town process feels really negligent on the side of like, what are we doing with historic preservation and general town design? But in the I think the biggest step forward we would take would be if we did a review of the bylaw, we would get some cohesion across town about what we just spent all this time on North Main and the
Right.
design guidelines for North
Right,
Main.
and also the design guidelines. Do we have a copy of that now that it's final? Is that you might have sent it, and it's probably buried in email somewhere.
Yeah, you can also find it on the webpage, on the planning board webpage, but I can send it again.
Okay. Yeah, it could be
I
great.
can print out a copy too if you want.
Yeah, printouts would be fantastic to have a printout. Actually, that'd be super. Just to something to hold.
Anyway, that's what I've been saying, or that's what I will spin some of the, well, actually, I don't know, I haven't gotten confirmation that I will be, they're looking for each group to kind of, so we don't fall nicely into a work stream, like we're kind of operating expenses, but we're basically only on the ask side, so I don't know where they'll put us, because we're also, we cross a few work streams. So I'm hoping, because there's so much interest in what will change with the tax revenue, that we have like a 5-minute opportunity to just present some of this. But if there's anything I've said that raises concerns, or if there's anything you want to build out, don't hesitate to reach out.
It's super helpful, and I know you've been doing a ton of work on this, and I'm thankful that you're doing this work.
Yeah,
Let's be clear there.
yeah, I'm hoping it chills out pretty soon. I'm hoping I present and then they're all like, okay, good to know. If we can, do you want me to, well, why don't it will come from either Taylor or Brian. We'll share the materials and.
Share the things that we just discussed. And
Yeah. Other than that, I think they covered everything that I've said so far.
Any additional questions? No, seeing none. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I have a small matter, just to bring it to your attention. Last night at the Historical Commission, this came up. You may or may not have heard that the legislature is considering legislation which would essentially, and Ian can correct me, and I don't know the Senate bill, but it's a big footing, the local historical commission imposing a statewide law that would, whatever we have would be sort of negated, and we'd have to follow their law in terms of how we review demolitions and that sort of thing. And everybody in the state is up in arms. All the various historical commission chairs and Mass Historical Commission are all opposing this, and they're trying to get to where they can testify against it, but I think it's something we should be aware of.
I mean, this could be a project that requires us to
Yeah.
consult with the planning-specific council.
Yep. Well, Bruce Hickey's going to write a letter on behalf of the commission opposing this legislation. So when I see that, I'll share it with you.
What,
And it has more information about it, but it's, I don't know what motivation is. I really don't understand. 'Cause-
Is it just a housing turnover? So trying to,
yeah, it has a lot, well, that's the primary motivation because they feel that perhaps there's historic preservation standing in the way of new housing.
I mean, it's mostly the huge houses that are being built that are standing in the way of affordable housing. I mean, if they wanted to do anything, we should think about making like duplexes legal. I mean, or fourplexes instead of a massive 6,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks
Well,
for updating
that-
us.
I did not know about that, so.
Well,
thank
I
you.
will forward you more information
Yeah,
if
that'd be
you'd
great.
like. But it's just been, I follow a listserv, the mass
I would
mass
think that the
preservation.
historic buildings represent a relatively small percentage of the overall development.
Yes, I would agree with you.
I mean, so just let them be. They're not going to influence,
Is there anything proactively we can do to protect assets in the town? Like if they're on the state register, are they better protected? Is there anything we can?
Apparently, no.
Okay. Thank you for that succinct
Roughly.
response.
But we'll do some research. Ian was at the meeting last night, and we'll get you some more information on that. But it's been percolating, and the mass preservation listserv that I subscribe to has been all abuzz about it, and all of the local historical commissions are pretty hot and bothered about it.
Yeah.
Universally
It would change
opposed.
Massachusetts pretty dramatically if
Yeah.
we started just.
Exactly.
willy-nilly just tearing down the very small percentage of
Yeah.
buildings that are
Or making
historic.
it easier to do it. I think that's the point.
Right.
So we have one set of minutes to review.
Yep.
And then I'm going to suggest we take a brief recess until the Conservation Commission comes up here, and then we can open our public hearing.
I just had a quick question, since we have a little bit of time. I wanted to see if I know we're not talking about 920 Main Street today, or whatever it was.
972.
972.
We-
I just was wondering if we will discuss at some point have the possibility of maybe having a design consultant, like Dennis Conlon weigh in, even under 53G, I don't know.
Let's discuss that in the public hearing,
Okay,
just so that we're not out of turn.
okay.
But certainly something to bring up on the 29th. Sorry, my voice is sort of,
So we don't get to talk about it on our own in between?
no, we can't, I don't believe we can talk about it.
No, but you can ask me questions about it if you want after the meeting.
Oh, okay, but we don't deliberate.
Correct.
Okay, understood.
So we have minutes from Tuesday, June 3rd that were sent out. I hope people had a chance to review them. I did, and if so, I would take a motion to approve them or amend them as needed.
I would make that motion to approve them as amended.
Is there a second?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote was unanimous. With that, I would suggest we take a recess of 5 minutes until the Conservation Commission comes up here, and then we will resume. Do we need to vote to go into recess? No? Okay. So we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Chair's discretion.
I'll call that I discreet. So now 8 o'clock, we have a joint public hearing with Conservation Commission on 0 Ardley Lane. We each are going to need to move into public hearing. I guess I need a motion or just a roll call. I'm always a little confused about this. Need a motion to move into the public hearing.
So moved. Oop,
A second.
Second.
just leave it to John.
All Terry.
Aye.
Jack.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous, and I'll turn it over to you.
I'd like to open the public hearing, the continuation of the public hearing on 0 Ardley Road for the Conservation Commission. Can I get a motion?
Make that motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so open.
We are all open now. So I don't know who wants to kick this off. As far as we have with two boards here, I don't want to step on anyone's toes.
No?
So you guys have already reviewed this.
Yes, we
This
have
is
reviewed
confusion.
it.
We have not.
Okay.
So it might be helpful if we had the petitioners come to the table and present what they're proposing to do, which is recap for you, but new for us.
I agree.
So with that, I'd like to welcome, so what we're going to do is we're going to get some even more chairs and wrap everyone around. Yeah.
I don't, you want to bang your knees against that?
Just because I'm on Finance Committee with 8 members.
Just be careful of your knees.
Yeah.
So if you could just do us a favor and state your names, and then give us an overview of what we're doing here tonight. I was at your last meeting with the Conservation Commission, so I'm aware, but our committee as a whole was not. So that would be very helpful for us. Thank you. And do talk into the mic so that people can hear. I hope can hear you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Al Galla from Galla, Simon and Associates.
Good evening. I'm Nicole Ferrara from LEC Environmental Consultants.
Thank you.
And I do have a couple copies of the 11 by 17 plans I can pass out if that's, I know they might be pulled up on the screen, but if anyone's
Thank you.
a paper person.
If possible, I'd like to present on the screen, but starting with the plans, if possible.
Do you know which page that is?
Page 80.
80?
I love you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So this plan, C-0 basically represents the existing conditions at the site. And you'll see that this plan is for road improvement and following the guidelines and requirements of the planning board for design. So we met with Conservation Commission, I believe about a month ago. We gave them basically the same presentation I'm going to do tonight. But for you, I'll get into a little bit more detail on the roadway and the drainage. So the road improvement plan is basically to create a standard roadway between number 22, which is, I think this works, this laser. Somehow it doesn't work on the screen.
It's the upper house, the house.
The upper house is number 22, and the lower house is number 2, Arley Place. So the paper road, we call it paper road, is between those two properties. With dealing with the property number 22 has since been redeveloped, or the existing house has been demolished, a new house has been built at this point. Oh.
Oh, okay, this works great. So there's the house, number 22, and here's number 2, Arley Place. This is the paper road that we're proposing to improve. Just going to scroll down to the next page. This is the layout of the roadway, and the layout is what is called a hammerhead layout, which allows fire trucks to come down, back up, turn forward, and do a reverse turn of exit. This roadway will be designed, or is designed, offset the property line. I mean, sorry, not property, center line of the road, and it hugs the northerly side of the layout. This plan here is kind of a site preparation plan. It shows the wetlands here, which are on town property, on cemetery property. It shows the 100-foot buffer line. It shows existing riprap, this location. And I would also say that the wetland line has been reflagged. Originally was flagged about 10 years ago. And there's been some disturbance, I believe, on this side of the property, in the cemetery. Some things have changed, so the line was slightly adjusted, it was reflagged, and this is the 100-foot offset of the wetlands. So this is under state of Massachusetts regulations. Any work within 100 feet of the buffer is regulated by Conservation Commission. In local bylaw, there is isolated land subject to flooding. So there's some inundation in this vicinity here, and I'll get to that in a little while. But that is also a protected resource under the local bylaw. These are areas that we are proposing to use as temporary stockpiling during construction. They're surrounded by erosion control fencing. There's also a construction stabilized entrance that would be approximately in this location right here. Moving on to the next sheet. So what this shows is the grading for the roadway. There is a leveling area of 1%. Then it goes down to 8%, which is the maximum allowed by the planning board. Then a leveling area of 2% at the end of the roadway. This plan also depicts the drainage system that we're proposing to install. The roadway itself will be equipped with catch basins at the end, a very efficient filtering system for stormwater, and an infiltration system consisting of infiltration pits below the roadway. There are a couple of entry points that actually contribute to the flooding of this rare area, and those are the uncontrolled runoff coming from the roadway from Arley Place at the beginning of the driveway of number 2 Arley Place, and then following down to the lower portion of the property. There's also a catch basin at number 4. We don't show it, but it's about in this vicinity, which is connected via piping around this property and discharging through here, through a ditch and onto the flooding area. So to accommodate these, we are proposing a catch basin on Arley Place, a head wall to catch the water from the adjacent property, pipe it into a system that would have a flared end or an outlet near the flooding area that's here. We also propose to install 2 additional catch basins on the sides of the layout and roadway to collect snow or basically treat snow runoff. They'll be connected to the same system. And the system for the road is a self-contained system. These are details, construction details. This is a head wall. This is the system for underground infiltration, catch basins, drain manholes, and trenching. For sewer, The sewer, we have an existing sewer line here. The current house at number 22 is currently connected to the sewer system on Ardley Road. So we're proposing to install a small pump, which will eventually pump into a manhole and then from gravity onto the existing manhole. That's how the sewage will be taken care of. There is also, as far as fire protection, there is an existing hydrant in this vicinity here. We're not proposing to install any additional hydrants. The distance is about 200 feet from this hydrant to the beginning of this lot. So we've had this discussion, I believe, with the fire department many times, and we've had previous plans that we had an extension of the water line and hydrants, but I think the final answer for that is that it's not going to be required. Sheet number C-3 basically depicts the profile of the roadway. You'll see the 1% to 2% grading sloping here, then down to 8%, then leveling off at 2%. This shows a cross-section, how the drainage system will be built. It also depicts the 40-foot layout here of the roadway, and it also shows the 26 feet of pavement that we're proposing with granite curbing on each side. That is apparently a requirement from the town. Various construction details here, granite curbing, the storm, we call storm scepter 450, that's the filtering unit for the stormwater. Then moving on, this plan here is an existing watershed plan. This is what we use in our calculations. It's basically the GIS plan from the town. And the dark line represents the limits of the contributing area to that isolated land subject to flooding. And it's about 6 acres. So we have impervious areas, we have some wooded areas and mostly landscaped areas, but all of this area basically drains to this point of interest. The next sheet shows that same area, which is what we compare our numbers to. This area, PR3, this is the area that is dealing with the roadway itself, and we added a detail here on the side showing how that works. This area here, PR1, is the area that discharges from the neighboring property, and that's how we size the culvert or the pipe that we need to install in this location. Following on, this sheet, C-6, shows potential easements for all the utilities that we're proposing. So these are all, still in flux, but this is what I think we need to have in place so everything is maintained properly. This one here is a calculation sheet for cut and fill. Basically, the way it's done, we create these boxes 20 by 20 feet and calculate elevations of cutting or filling. And they're all tabulated here on this side, coming up with a final number here of how much fill has to come into the site. This is required by the Board of Health for a fill permit, so that's why we have this. Following this, these are drainage calculations. It's part of the drainage report. I do have a couple of other exhibits that I don't see them in here, but they're basically additional information that I submitted to the Conservation Commission to give more definition on how we're calculating the amount of flood storage and flood filling. That's it. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Do you want to start, or do you want us to start? We can go either way.
So I think if you guys have questions, please proceed as you would
Okay.
normally for your
Perfect.
public hearing.
Thank you very much. Any members of the planning board have any questions about?
I guess, so my understanding is that the planning board has seen this in the past. and they opined and they voted it down. So I want to understand what was behind that and if this is any different. I also want to understand that, are we voting on something different? I would imagine we're voting on different criteria than the Conservation Commission is. So I want to have a grasp as to what are we evaluating and voting on and determining.
So I think that's a great question for Taylor and Elaine to respond to what each of our boards do have slightly, well, significantly different purviews on a same project. So
So the difference is, the planning board is the special permit, is the granting authority for roadway improvement plans. So it's the planning board's responsibility to make sure that all the roadway standards are met and that the road meets everything that is required. Now, separately, the Conservation Commission is reviewing stormwater and encroachment on wetlands or anything that could be involved in their purview. Their decision should be taken very seriously by the planning department or by the planning board. If the Conservation Commission says that they have an issue with something, the planning board should have the same issue. But at the end of the day, the permit does have to be granted by the planning board.
So that's why we're here. It makes it easier. We get
Correct.
immediate feedback and
Correct. And since we're trying to do it in a parallel line so that we don't take up too much of anyone's time. But if maybe as a good example for you, similar to 10 Converse, the Conservation Commission has their their own set of rules that they have to follow by, and the planning board has their own too. Concerning the planning board seeing this before, this is the first time that the planning board has seen a roadway improvement plan. There have been other proposals to this site that haven't been specifically a roadway improvement plan.
do we know what we're
I would welcome the applicant to speak on what has been presented before. It was before my time, but I do know that there were other proposals in the past.
Why does the applicant want to have a roadway here?
let's turn that around and ask the applicant.
Is that to develop that parcel?
It is. Obviously, to develop the parcel, what is called Lot 56B, which is 42,000 square feet lot. Because we need the frontage, basically.
Mm-hmm.
42,000. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
42,000. So what's the zoning in that area? How many lots could they get out of that?
I don't know offhand.
42,000, I would think at least two. Do you know, John?
Well, I believe it's 10,000-foot zoning, but you don't have, you need, what is the required frontage, 100 feet?
Could be,
I think it's 100, so you'd need the frontage, so you need 200 feet of frontage. I don't know if on this road, at most you could get, if there's 200 feet on the proposed road, then potentially you could get two lots, but
It becomes a
you can't kind of
cul-de-sac,
just
doesn't it?
no, they would, they would.
Yeah, yep, it is.
So one thing to also keep in mind is that what's in front of the planning board is not future development opportunity.
Okay.
It's just the road. That's all we're looking at. I think we can sit here and agree that there might be future development on these sites, but the application in front of us is just the roadway improvement plan.
It's sort of a roadway development plan, though, right? Right now, it's a paper road, so it's a privately owned space that has potential, but no road.
Is it?
It's just the name
Is
of the
it
road.
private? Is the paper road privately owned? Who owns the paper road?
It should be private.
Is there a deed?
There is a deed. I don't have the deed, but
No, but is it not? Is it?
May I?
Absolutely. Please pull over a chair, and that way.
Thanks. My name is Bill Proya. I'm with the applicant. I'm with Reamer and Bronstein. The road's privately owned to the center line. It's an existing lot. It's existing layout. So we have a right to build out the road, essentially. And we submitted a legal brief many, many months ago. So maybe you don't have it, but if you need it, we can send it through again. So that's it. And according to town council, because of the way this lot was created back in the 30s? No, maybe 1909, right?
35.
Yeah, so it's called 81FF is the section of the subdivision control law. And it just simply provides that if you have a lot on one of those plans recorded, you have the right to build out the roadway in front of it to give you legal access. But you have to build it out, as Taylor said, to existing town standards for roadways, drainage with pavement design specifications, things like that.
I was curious, so the current deed, this owner's deed, they have, goes to the middle of this proposed roadway.
Correct.
And the other side of the roadway is owned by?
Same thing. Goes to the middle.
Right, but who is that? Is that the town or is it
No.
another resident?
It's the abutting lot.
Oh, and are they part of this or?
No. I mean, they're aware, they're consenting to it. Yeah, actually, do we put Josh on the application?
So do you plow half of the road? Like, who maintains the?
Well, it's not, I mean, it will become a town road, but I'm just,
Become a
Is it a town road?
It
It's a
will not
private
become a
road.
town road,
no. But if it-
unless town meeting accepts the road.
right, but
But we have draft, like a subdivision, we have draft documents so that we're going to take responsibility for plowing the road, maintaining the road. If and when it becomes a public way, I don't think the town would probably accept this as a public way.
yeah.
I can't say.
And the owner of that other half, they're fine with all of this?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll have to have recorded documents, so
Yeah.
that'll be part of the approval. Same thing with Al mentioned the easements for the utilities, drainage, whatever has to happen. So, yeah, look at it that way, it's just like a subdivision kind of layout, but it's plainly not a subdivision because there's only one lot. We're not creating more than one lot. And I was saying, town council's opinion, I think Taylor might remember, was that only one lot can be built because the lot shown on that original plan is the lot that's depicted here. And his opinion was that only the lot shown on that plan benefited from the 81FF category. So discussions of further development, I think, as Taylor said, are probably not. They're not part of this. We're not
Yeah, no,
proposing
I'm
it
just
because we've been given advice that we shouldn't, or an opinion that we shouldn't.
Can I ask a
But
question? Oh,
We
sorry, go ahead.
have, from the very beginning, represented it's just one lot that we're trying to create.
Helpful, thank you.
Yeah, and we're going to build one house.
Can I ask if you could go back to a couple pages back where there was plot plan, you can pick one for the, right there, that one will do. What is the shaded area that looks like a fish going from the bottom to the top? And no, not there. And then
Yeah.
riprap. What is that? Was there a change of slope in that? What is the change of slope in that?
This is proposed riprap.
Okay.
So it's a slope of 1 to 1, so 45 degrees, and it goes from the end of the road, there's a guardrail at the end, then it slopes down, it's rock. So that's how we do that. There's many options we looked at before, like retaining walls, but this was the best solution we came up with.
What's at the bottom of that grade?
What is the bottom?
What is at the bottom? Is it a field? Is it a waterway? Is it a
It's,
house?
the bottom of it is basically that, the land, adjacent to this is the limit of the buffer right here. Right here.
So it would fall in the water.
So periodically we'll have some water in it.
There's a fence there too, right? There's a chain link fence there demarcating the cemetery, I think I
Yes.
saw.
There is, that's right on the property line,
Yeah.
yes.
So based on that, I have a question for you, Taylor. which is, given that there's a change of grade, there's the road, but then there's a change of grade on the lot and at the end of the road that would seem to be subject to site plan review separately, or
Yeah,
no?
that would be a question for the ZBA. That wouldn't be a discussion for now.
Okay,
That
well,
would
I
be
guess
for
my
any
question.
future development.
No. If that's required in order to put in this road,
And we preempt, grade change later, is there anything?
then would that would require a site plan review, I think, before we could, unless they only did it on the roadway portion, but if they did the whole thing, I'm just trying, I want to understand, because that seems like it's a parallel track that might be required before the road gets built. Because I presume that riprap needs to be in place before the road gets built, is that correct?
A portion of it has to be, yes. The portion at the end of the road has to be there to hold the road up. But the grades are steep in there too, so
Okay.
we basically need a majority of this riprap to build, because the pavement extends into the lot itself, you see, which can actually be used later on as a portion of a driveway.
Can I answer the zoning question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We know we have obviously multiple layers of permitting here, but we'd like to start with the road. And if we need to get the ZBA site plan approval, we'd like to go and get that with the road. Because we need you to help us design the road. We can't have the ZBA helping us design the road. So our thinking is we need to get the infrastructure figured out with these two boards, and then go to the ZBA and say, this is our plan. Try to wrap it into, if the same thing happens, because the house hasn't been designed yet. So that also may trigger site plan, depending on the...
Totally makes sense. The only thing I was thinking is site plan review is triggered by the change in grade. And I just wanted to make sure I got my head around the order of operations.
Yeah.
If we build the road, but then site plan review says you can't change the grade, then we couldn't have built the road. You know what?
But
No,
the
if we
grade is getting changed to build the road. I'm with Brian, this is confusing. So the grade of the lot is being changed to build the road, right? And then to build the house, you would again change the grade of the lot?
I don't know. I don't know about the house.
We don't
But if we can get the roadway approved, and we have a plan, and we know what the impacts on the lot are, then we can go, and if it triggers site plan, then we can go to the ZBA and say, this is what we'd like to build, because we need to design the road first. They can't really design the road.
There's a couple of things to think about.
And we
though.
wouldn't, of course, we wouldn't build the road unless we had the site plan approval.
Right.
The building inspector wouldn't let us do anything on the lot if we still had zoning approval that was necessary.
I know, but two things to think about. One, if you have to change the grade on the lot to build the road, which is before we do any buildings on the lot, if you can make that grade change, preempt the grade change for the building. But the other reason for that is that you're covered above a waterway, right? So if you have to disrupt new riprap to change the grade again, would that, do you know if that would be required, or is that, once that's in place, that doesn't move, the lot is
No,
separate? Okay.
this design
It
isn't
looks
going
like
to
it extends
affect
beyond the pavement.
the house. Siting and grading and building is not going to create any changes to the roadway.
So the gray is all new riprap, the road is the dark dashed line, and the gray that's the riprap doesn't change no matter what happens to the lot going forward. That's,
Yes.
I think that
Okay.
That's the point.
the dark dotted line is the easement, and
but
the,
he's saying that becomes pavement, part of
No,
which
just
will
the
be
no,
roadway is
driveway.
just the
smaller
road,
portion.
the roadway
Oh, I
is
see, okay.
like,
Oh, I see,
so actually the riprap does not go under the road.
okay, gotcha,
It's confusing.
okay.
Anyway, that's our logic, and it's a great question, but that's sort of how we were.
No, thank you for,
saying it.
thank you.
Can I focus on the scale of what 13,000 cubic yards of soil looks like? To my math, that's about 400 trucks worth of delivering soil and fill to raise up this road such that the infiltration basin can be covered?
Part of it is 12,000 some cubic yards coming in.
That's a lot of trucks and delivery. What kind of soil? I'd be interested in where that's coming from, considering it's close to a water area. And then, more importantly, Al, I'm really interested in what happens beyond a 100-year flood, and where does that water go when the system is overtopped?
Beyond the 100-year flood. So this is designed for the 100-year flood.
Right.
Obviously, it will spill over off.
Well, that's what I want to know. Where does it spill over? What happens then?
It will.
Right?
Correct. When it's overtopped, we're in a valley here, and that river water is going to go only in one place after it overtops.
So it will. Let's say we have the 200-year storm. This fills up. It will spill over the curbing and down the riprap and onto the area that it's going to anyway, which is this land subject to flooding.
But it'll do it by grade, not by actually being directed.
It won't be directed. It was just has to fill it first, get on top, above the curbing, and then there's a flattening area of 5 or 6 feet still, and then it goes down.
Thank you. That's helpful. What percentage is EX3 contributing to the full volume that we're talking about here?
The X3?
That lower area that is the whole neighborhood that's coming out of that one head wall.
So this one here?
No, I guess it's PR1. Yeah, that whole area that's coming into that head wall. What volume of the water are you taking care of here?
Yeah, so we're dealing with this. So the whole thing is about 6 acres. So I would estimate about 3 acres is
More than half of the entire
half of it is
watershed.
down.
Okay.
Yeah, that goes directly into the swale, not into the
Yeah, it does not go into the infiltration system. No, this is the drainage area that goes to infiltration system. It's PR3,
Yeah.
which is 25,000 square feet, right in drainage area.
Thank you.
Additional questions by either board?
I have a question that may be directed at Taylor. I feel obliged to ask whether reasonable or not, but is there a reasonable path to the ultimate development being more than a single-family home, say an affordable duplex or fourplex?
That's certainly possible, but it's not really something that we're going to be able to discuss at this, during this discussion.
Okay.
Or during this decision. But it's something, it's more than likely going to have to go through the ZBA.
Right.
So at that point, the planning board will
Because we
be
have
able
a
to
lot
see
of
it again and then make that
oversized single-family
recommendation.
homes already in the town.
Yep.
I think if you saw
One of our missions is to try to create something more affordable.
I think if you saw the amount of engineering that has to go into this, it would sort of rule out that concept.
Okay.
As Zeke said, it's like tons and tons of dirt have to be brought in just to get this thing even be an 8% grade.
So you're saying that a single family is way more profitable than a duplex or a fourplex?
I'm saying that something affordable will not be built in there because it's so complex.
No, but if you had a duplex or a fourplex, that's 4 times
That might change the economics.
the, right.
How many trucks did you mention? Truckloads?
It's
You
like
did the math.
50 yards per large truck at most, right? 40 to 50.
it's not-
Right.
So it's hundreds.
Okay.
I'll let you guys do that math and represent yourself. It'll have a big impact on the roadway infrastructure leading to the site.
So I think, go ahead.
Nope.
I was going to say, one of the objectives, I think, tonight is for us, our two boards, to decide on the hiring of third-party peer reviewers. We sort of have different avenues we're looking at, but there.
Brad, one thing that didn't happen is Elaine did not explain what our interest in this whole was.
Yes. No, that's good.
So the Conservation Commission has some interests in common with the Planning Board, such as stormwater management, but the Conservation Commission is also interested in landscaping, land subject to flooding, fill and compensatory storage.
So we wouldn't have any real part of this conversation except for that wetland down at the bottom.
Yeah.
And do we have a primary interest as the planning board, apart from what they have?
Yes, for roadway improvement.
In terms of the criteria that we're voting on?
Well, we're not voting tonight. Because we ideally will seek third-party reviewers of, in our case, it's for both roadway design, but also stormwater runoff. And I think that's largely.
As per our subdivision rules, the planning board is responsible for the roadway standards. So when new roads are created in town, it's the planning board's responsibility to ensure that those roads are created at the standard that the town accepts.
So, as Elaine said, we would be interested in the stormwater management. So, as it makes sense for us to participate in the, a peer review, because you are going to want to make sure that all of the calculations and everything for the stormwater management, both on the roadway for the infiltration system, and we are also interested in the runoff from the PR1 that would go through that pipe that's outlined there, and that would go essentially into the isolated land subject to flooding. So if we could include that in the peer review, that would satisfy our needs.
Absolutely. And there's certainly economies of scale to both the petitioner, but also having one peer reviewer looking at both aspects of the project would help. I would think it would help, as opposed to having two separate peer reviews that make different assumptions and don't necessarily come up with conclusions that are helpful for us.
And more efficient for the applicant.
Exactly.
Yes.
So part of the reason this meeting came together was because they presented to us a month ago, and it was like, well, what about all the other guys? Right, so here's some of the other guys. But one of the questions we had was, since the water from that head wall, on the upper left there, the thing looks like a T. Out the other side looks, I think, is a better way to get it. Right, okay. There you go. There, that all runs down to this, what will soon potentially a wetland. Is it creating a wetland, or is it just creating some dry, parched kind of thing? And it's being planted, at least as proposed, with wetland plants. So part of what we'd like to see, at least I'd like to see, in the work order for a potential peer review is what should our expectations be for that particular piece of land? Will it turn into a wetland and we should pay more attention to it? Or will it just be a place where water runs off to?
So I think the pre and post, because my understanding from Al during our site visit is the area that's drained by PR1 is essentially going into this area, this isolated land subject to flooding, and that is not going to change. If we could confirm that, I think that would go a long way to saying we're not really changing the conditions of this isolated land subject to flooding.
Okay. Not creating new wetlands.
I
don't know if that's the right term.
Not putting more water into that. So if the pre and post are the same amount of water, because it's coming from the same place, going through the same system, there should be no change. Over time, we'd like to confirm that.
Okay.
Is that Little Winter, or is there a stream I'm not seeing?
It's a part of the graveyard. It's part of the graveyard.
Are there any other questions from the Conservation Commission for the applicant at this point?
If there are no questions from the applicant, I might ask the applicants to return back into the audience just so we can discuss among ourselves. As is tradition with us, I don't want to step on your toes. We allow public comment in all public hearings. If anybody from the public is here for public comment, I know everybody who's here, and I don't know if anybody is, but I want to give that opportunity. Is there anybody from in the audience who would like to give public comment? Seeing none, I'll close that. And now we can decide how we want to move forward as far as peer review. I think I understand what you're requesting. I don't know exactly how to make the motion to do exactly what we want, because what we want is to understand the roadway design and make sure it's compliant.
Right.
And we want to make sure that everything that you need is also in that too.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that somehow either we get a motion that sort of says that, or that Taylor and Elaine understand what we all want, and we make a motion, each of our boards respectively, to have them work together to finalize
Yeah, I was going
peer
to say
review.
that's a little confusing because it's not in our wheelhouse to decide what the peer does. I think that Taylor and Elaine need to get together, so the motion needs to say that, right?
Yeah.
So we would move to approve the joint hiring of the third party, of hiring a third party peer review consultant to conduct a joint review of the stormwater management and roadway design components in conjunction with the interests of the Conservation Commission as defined by Elaine Freeland of the proposed Ardley Road roadway improvement plan.
Does that motion work for you?
Well stated.
Is that is a motion. I believe that was just a motion.
Yes, it was.
I hope so, 'cause I don't know.
I will second that, but I believe that the Conservation Commission needs to make their own motion as well.
And
So
I think it may be work for me if we seconded the same motion and each took a separate vote, so our commissions
Bravo.
could have
Bravo.
the same.
Well, now that it's seconded, I need to hear it again.
I think I got it maybe, but do you want to try it? Oh, and I trust you.
Okay, we move to hire a joint party, third-party reviewer to conduct a review of the stormwater management roadway design in conjunction with the conservation interest. Which, do we want to state?
of the proposed Ardley roadway
Yeah, do
project.
we name Elaine, or we just leave it at?
Is this the same as the work order or
So,
something else?
for the proposed Ardley Road
Right.
paving.
No, this is for Elaine and Taylor to work
Yeah.
together to work out the
Yeah.
details of the work order.
The 9 of us aren't going to hatch out all the little details of what needs to be and what they put out.
So while I meet later with Taylor, my understanding that he and I, or at least our part of what he and I ask a third-party reviewer, is to review the stormwater management pre- and post conditions so that so that the water budget can be adequately determined, particularly in our purposes, in light of the overflow that goes to the land subject to flooding and how much that water budget is going to impact landscaping, the proposed landscaping. Is the commission all right with this as I meet with Taylor? Is that what you're looking for?
I like my part in there, yeah.
Yes.
Your part in that?
Land subject to flooding.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Okay, so that's what we'll bring to the table when I speak with Taylor.
Fantastic. So for the planning board, all in favor? It's a public hearing. Let's do a roll call vote. Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
My chair votes aye.
And for the Conservation Commission, Zeke,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Ann, Bill,
Aye.
Chair, aye.
Excellent. So do we need to continue do we, the planning board, need to continue this public hearing
Yes.
to a date certain?
No,
We don't know the date. We can make the date certain later.
Okay. So I would welcome a motion to continue the public hearing
To a date unknown at the time.
to a date unknown at the time of this meeting. I'd welcome such a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call vote. Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, I would welcome a motion to continue the public hearing in the Conservation Commission to a date uncertain at the current time. Roll call, Zeke,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Chair, aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you. It just worked very lovely.
Let's do it again.
No?
That's a pleasure.
Good to see you all. This was nice.
Old times.
Hopefully we didn't keep you too long. I saw your agenda had something at 8:30, so
What's that? I'll give
it's
you.
always a little slower with
Yeah.
two boards.
Thank
Thank you.
We already
Nice to meet you, Bill. Nice to see you.
That's right.
closed the meeting.
Carrie, you're right. You're right. Robert's Rules of Order, is that it?
So
We're just about done.
I think we have enough.
We don't get to leave.
We have to. Take your seat. We get to leave in a moment. If we go back to the agenda, I don't think we have anything further on our agenda.
I don't see it.
So our next meeting is on July 29th. One of the things we didn't settle is whether we want that meeting to be in person or remote. The advantage to being in person is we're going to open with an executive session. That's easier to do in person, but we're scheduled to be remote, and I know at least one of our members will. You're away then.
Well, if I am able to make it, look, I
Either make it or you don't.
We're aiming to be back.
Okay.
Graham and I both have something, but if there could be a weather, we won't know until the weekend before.
Okay.
We're backpacking. If the weather delays us, we will be gone.
Ooh, that
We're
sounds
back.
fun.
This is the first time we're backcountry backpacking. Like we're the Bigelow. Like we're going to Maine. We're not like hauling off into the desert just yet. He's 14, so he's carrying his own weight at last.
So are we okay with actually holding on? I mean, so we'll just,
But if it's bad
next meeting is on July 29th. We can just
in
post it.
person's great. I agree with you that that's a nice discussion to have in person, but there's a small chance I'll miss it.
So that'll be our next meeting on July 29th in person. We all have homework regarding Taylor's performance evaluation. I would welcome a motion, and it is 8:48, which means that my offer of drinks at Lucia's is in order. I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Thank you, WinCam.
Back.